Good morning. Welcome to Certainty and Serenity. My name is Michael Houlihan. I'm the Assistant Director for the Small Business Development Center. I want to welcome you to our program this morning. We will be conscious of the time. This is a 1-hour webinar, and people have asked me before when they were asking about this particular topic called Certainty and Serenity. And we said, well, why did we come up with something like that? And it's kind of simple. I know the first quarter and second quarter for a lot of businesses this year were a little uncertain, especially with the COVID and what we've been dealing with from our economy. Even as strong as our economy was going into the second quarter, we still obviously had a very difficult year on what's happening both regionally and also from a national standpoint. So we thought from a business standpoint, what do we all need? It doesn't matter what industry that we're in, we all need more certainty, and we definitely need some more serenity these days. So we thought, how can we finish 2020 strong? Well, we can finish 2020 strong for the third and fourth quarter if we have our financial security and e-commerce with the amount of business that's being shifted towards the e-commerce side and really provide you with some real solutions to strengthen your business that you can implement immediately. And that's why we've partnered with Huntington Bank this morning. And also our center, which I'll be talking about this morning, is called a Center of Excellence for Digital Services. We'll be talking about the services that we can provide to you, again, regardless of what industry that you're in, to really help and strengthen these kind of components so that you really can have a stronger e-commerce presence, and also focus on some of your e-commerce from a search engine optimization and some of the reporting features in digital commerce that we can provide for you on our consulting services. As a Small Business Development Center, we are sponsored by the Small Business Administration, the SBA at the federal level, and also the Department of Community and Economic Development. We're in our PREP Southwest region for this area. We are one out of 16 SBDCs in the state of Pennsylvania. We provide counseling, training program, and also assistance with capital formation if you need that type of assistance. So for today's agenda, for myself, I'm a former small business owner. And I know every day we're putting out small fires and trying to get through and focus on our next sale, where our next piece of business is coming from. So we thought, well, if we can focus on the business, not just being in the business, we thought we can take today's agenda and really talk about how to ensure safe financial transactions and really strong, secure online activities in 6 major factors. Especially talking about fraud that's happening with small businesses and how to protect yourself, cybersecurity protection, financial security, we'll be talking about from Huntington and what they provide on the e-commerce standpoint, and cyber insurance that you may not have heard of, but obviously it's very relevant today. People ask us all the time, they talk about the #1 crimes in America, and it is absolutely cyber theft, identity, things that can be stolen, ransomware, things along those lines, things that can really hurt your business and shut your business down almost immediately. I had a business that called me a couple weeks ago and said, you know what, Mike, my business and my servers are being held for ransom. I mean, these are real issues that small business owners are facing. They're not hitting the headlines, they're not the major, Fortune 500 companies that may have stronger infrastructure in place. So we're going to talk about that infrastructure and really protecting your business in multiple ways. And then the last thing we're going to talk about safer transactions for your customers and also what we can provide you. If you're using any of our consulting services with any of our consultants at the SBDC, we can run for you a no-cost search engine optimization report on your website. We'll be taking you through those kind of components today and offer those type of additional services for you beyond the training tip for today. To begin our program for this morning, we'd appreciate it if everyone would be able to mute themselves, obviously except for our speakers. The program today is being recorded. We will send you a copy of this, so you will receive a copy of the PowerPoint, so you don't feel like you have to write all this information down. We'll email that to you. We'll also be receiving a brief survey of this program. So again, please mute yourself if you can. We will turn this program over to Chris Carroll. He's the Vice President for Relationship Manager with Huntington Bank. He'll be introducing our next two speakers, and we want to thank Huntington for their continued support of our Small Business Development Center at the University of Pittsburgh. So, Chris, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Michael, and thank you for such a kind introduction. Huntington certainly appreciates it and our partnership with the SBDC and the IEE, and we definitely value the ability to help provide support and education for the small businesses of the greater Pittsburgh community. Part of our initiative here at Huntington is trying to make sure we're doing the right thing for small businesses throughout this rather difficult and challenging time. It's certainly unprecedented for really every business and how they're being impacted. And so our goal today is really to help provide the additional support, whether it's through the education of treasury management and providing safe and secure transactions, as well as the ability to offer and educate additional information with regarding to cyber insurance and business continuity and the planning along those lines. My role here at Huntington is as a business relationship manager. I work with individual clients for the benefit of helping them with their cash flow and their lending needs. But I'm very fortunate in that I have two very seasoned partners in Faith Hanson and Andy Sayers, both of whom provide their additional support along their specialties. Faith with the treasury management side of things, and Andy with the cyber insurance and business continuity. I'm going to give each of them a brief moment to introduce themselves, and then Andy, when you're done, if you'd cycle it back to me, we'll continue through the slide presentation. Faith?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Faith Hanson. I'm a Senior Treasury Management Advisor and Vice President here at Huntington Bank. I've been here for 20 years, and I really enjoy partnering with our business and commercial bank clients in a consultative and trusted advisory role. If you're not familiar with the value that a Treasury advisor brings to small business, the primary focus is to help oversee and manage cash flow and liquidity, and just help companies strategize sound financial decisions. Andy?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Andy Sayers. I am a Vice President and Senior Risk Advisor with the Huntington Insurance Group, and I always appreciate the opportunity to discuss insurance-related topics with you. Today we're going to discuss cyber liability, cyber coverage for you and first party and third party to protect your business assets, and also discuss a little bit about Huntington's unique ability to work with you in succession and contingency planning, which is going to be so important as we move out of the pandemic and going forward. So I'll be on in a little bit, and I look forward to speaking to you then, and I'm going to go back to Chris now.
All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And once again, thank you, Mike, for the introduction. Huntington really is here to help. Our main focus throughout this pandemic is really trying to make sure that we're helping businesses survive through the continuity contingency planning, helping them with managing their treasury management services, not only providing education along those lines, but making sure that the business you're conducting is safe and secure at all times. That's going to be done through our treasury management services, through the cyber security education that Andy's going to talk about, as well as some additional relief programs and resources that we have available. Next. When we're talking about COVID-19, and as I mentioned earlier, it really has been a very interesting and different time for businesses to operate in. It's had a tremendous amount of impact, whether it's your workforce, how we communicate with one another, both internally, both internally with your own employees, but also externally with your suppliers and your customers. And how does that work and impact your supply chain as well as your cash flow and the ongoing success of the business itself? Next. When we're talking about workforce, really it's vitally important for those businesses to be successful that they have a pretty routine, regimented communication with their employees and with their customers and vendors. We're finding that in talking with a lot of small businesses that those that are differentiating themselves are the ones that have a more consistent communication program throughout their customer base as well as their staffing. You're also looking at how do you minimize the impact of potential spread of the COVID-19 and making sure that you don't have any staffing shortages along the way. As we go ahead and move forward through the pandemic, I'm sure as many businesses are, they're kind of reevaluating their business strategy and how can they handle things working remotely. Next. When we're talking about the supply chain management end of things, as well as we do that when you're relying upon a business that or a supplier that has only one thing to offer you and they are your sole supplier, that puts your business at risk. So a lot of things that you want to make sure that you're looking at is trying to diversify that risk for your business by looking at seeing if you could add additional suppliers to your business. What does that mean to you? Well, that means other businesses are also looking to diversify what they have. And there's additional growth opportunities that are there for you throughout this pandemic. As long as you're going ahead and listening to your customers for the demands and for the products and services that they're asking for. This also goes ahead and leads you potentially into a situation where if you're unable to fulfill contracts or that you may have, that there is a possibility of some possible liability to you as a business. So you should review those contracts, consult with an attorney as needed. And Andy can speak to that a little bit further down the road. Next. When it comes to the cash flow and liquidity end of things, the best thing that you could possibly do is making sure that you're looking at your financials on a regular basis. That you have accurate reporting, that you will have the ability to control as much as possible how much or how you get paid and how you pay others, and the reporting that comes with that, and doing it in a safe and secure manner. Faith will be talking a little bit more about the options that are available and things that you should consider when you're looking at those kind of best practices and walking through cash flow projections along those lines to help you weather the storm. Next. For the ongoing continuity and contingency planning, those are things that, unfortunately, we know it's going to happen again, whether it's another wave of COVID-19 that's going to impact the business. As much as you may be stretched now, it really is important that you take a moment to step back and look at the business, not necessarily being in the business, but looking at the business so that you can plan accordingly, not only for your emergency action plan, but your disaster recovery plan and your continuity plan that falls in line with that. And that part will be covered by Andy as well. I don't want to steal their thunder, so at this point, I'm going to turn this over to Faith. So Faith, if you would, could you cover your section, please?
You didn't steal my thunder. Thank you.
I behaved this time.
Good morning, everyone. Let me preface my 10-15 minute presentation here that I'm at a lake house at my father-in-law's, and there's a cockatoo in this office who's really excited about treasury management. So if you hear a little chirping in the background, that's just my audience. But good Tuesday morning, everyone. Thank you for joining Huntington team and allowing me the opportunity to kick off our COVID-19 relief resources and guidance presentation. Huntington is an industry leader in technology and treasury management products and services. And our treasury management team here at Huntington, we specialize in collection, disbursement, funding, investment, and most importantly, fraud mitigation solutions. The presentation that I have for you today is focused on industry-specific considerations and guidance from a treasury management perspective on how to maintain effective treasury management functions during challenging financial and operational environments. With any challenging environment, such as current COVID-19, it's important to not only consider impact to yourself and your family, but for business and employees as well. Huntington is here to help think through the components of a strategic business contingency plan. One of the most important discoveries we came to realize recently was that our clients did not have themselves adequately prepared away from the office. We're actively reviewing and advising our business clients and partners to ensure that they have what they need to work remotely. A few examples include having computer equipment, hardware, and any software remotely that you would typically use at the office. Login tokens, wire PIN credentials. Several customers did not have that information on them and were not able to access our online banking platforms. Check stock, obviously, and signature stamps. Next slide. We then provide key considerations to help minimize business disruptions, such as mailed payments, determine how to handle gathering and processing mail remotely, considering gaps in receivables processes and how it could possibly be automated through remote deposit, check deposits, or lockbox, and also having deposit slips and night drop bags on hand is necessary. Number 2 would be check payments. Consider initiating ACH payments if you're not able to print physical checks. We also offer print and mail and purchasing cards as well as alternative to paper checks that provides automation, and also, card programs can offer significant cashback rewards for those payables. And then lastly, consider accepting credit cards as a form of payment via our merchant services. The big buzzword now is contactless and secure. So contactless payments are a great alternative to accepting cash and cards and provide additional benefit of no direct contact at the point of sale. Next slide. We also have award-winning digital tools to help our clients navigate virtually. A few online banking best practices include assigning more than one person to all roles to support undisrupted system accessibility, ensuring that all online profiles are up to date with current contact information. Many of our clients had in their online profiles, obviously their office phone number, their office emails. So we did spend some time over the first few weeks of COVID and folks working from home, reaching out and having them update that information to their personal cell phones, emails, etc., so we could push that information to them timely. Cross-training employees to provide backup access. A lot of our online small business online platforms only had one user. So whenever they were locked out their passwords, they didn't have their tokens. We really didn't have any other employees, on the system that were able to kind of help reset passwords and things like that. And then always, of course, ensuring employees are diligent with all data security, confirmation routines, and password protocols. Next slide. The meat and the potatoes of this presentation is really focused around our business security suite. Understanding the statistics and trends of payment fraud and how they can mitigate fraudulent activity is another best practice that we share with our clients. Huntington's Business Security Suite is a flexible collection of services that help prevent fraud on their business accounts. We've included for you here on slide 14 a brief feature and benefit list for your review. So the features of Huntington's Security Suite, it is a collection of services that are kind of a la carte. Clients can pick and choose how they want to use them on their accounts. But the features of the suite are ACH positive pay, check positive pay, reverse positive pay, check block, and also wire block. The benefits of these services also are as follows. ACH positive pay is protection by placing filters and blocks on ACH transactions. So only electronic ACH debits that meet personalized criteria will be processed. Check positive pay provides early detection of fraudulent, altered, or counterfeit checks by verifying items presented against a check issue file. This is the strongest form of check fraud protection. Typically, most small business customers utilize some type of QuickBooks accounting software. We simply ask them that when they do their check run, whether that's daily or weekly, print that file off, print those checks off, and then go into that accounting software and pull out what's called a check issue file. That check issue file then can be uploaded to the online banking fraud portal. And as checks come in and they're presented for payment, if you have positive pay services on your business account, we'll actually pull those checks out of the Fed file that comes in the morning and match them up against our client's accounting software. If they match, we'll just pay them as we normally would. If they do not match, we will not pay them. So there's no loss to the client and no loss to the bank. We simply ask our clients to act on the alert and review that item to ensure they want to pay that item, or if it's fraudulent, return it. Reverse positive pay works the same way as check positive pay, only you don't upload an issue file to us. We simply push a file of checks to you every morning through our online platform for reviewing, posting, and clearing. Check block is also a popular feature. We have a lot of clients that will put check block on money markets or maybe a merchant services only account, but it protects against fraudulent checks posting to the account by transforming into an electronic only account. Any checks that are presented will automatically be returned. An alert will be sent to the business owner to let them know that a check was presented. And then lastly, for the fraud protection suite, we have wire block. Wire block is the ability to manage wire transfer activity, blocking incoming and outgoing wire transfers. Next slide. Pages 16 and 17 of this deck offer a complete overview of the Treasury solutions that are offered here at Huntington. COVID-related business disruptions have significantly resurfaced many of these conversations with clients. I'm not going to go through each and every one of them. It's slides 16 and 17, but you can see the service options that are available and then the overview and the benefit of the value-add service that can be added. Next slide. Next slide. Thanks. Lastly, we want to include an example of our fraud mitigation checklist of best practices. This checklist is presented and reviewed to mitigate fraud risks associated with payment and online fraudulent activity. You can see here from the checklist below and on the next page, we've covered most of this in today's presentation, but I would like to draw the group's attention to the bottom of the next slide, number 19, regarding strengthening firewalls, antivirus softwares, cybercrime, and cyber liability. And that is a great transition to my partner, Andy, in our Huntington Insurance Group. Did anyone have any questions, or did we want to just transition to Andy?
Transition.
Okay, perfect. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Faith.
Thank you, Faith. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Andy Sayers. I represent Huntington Insurance. And although Chris and Faith are very, very tough acts to follow, they also provide the foundation for what I want to talk about. And I'm going to hit on, as Chris mentioned, some of the things that Huntington Insurance has the capability, and in my experience of about 30 years of both banking and insurance experience, we are really uniquely positioned to talk to you about emergency action plans, contingency planning, and also disaster planning, all of which are topics that must be addressed coming out of the pandemic. If you have an insurance representative that isn't talking to you or doesn't have the ability to talk to you about those particular things, then please let us know, because they're invaluable going forward. On slide 24, and you'll receive, as Mike said, you'll receive this information. I'm not sure if you're able to see it now, but I just want to talk a little bit about the insights of cyber liability coverage. Cyber is becoming more and more prevalent, and it's very timely, and this is a great group to talk about because cyber criminals target three particular segments of business. Small business, most of which you are involved in. They also attack nonprofits and healthcare. Why do they attack healthcare? Because of the sheer volume of patient information, names, addresses, and healthcare and healthcare providers have a lot or a vast amount of confidential information that they can be held captive, or the cyber criminals can demand ransomware on. Ransomware is becoming more and more prevalent all the time, especially in public entities. And a lot of times insurance, I can talk all day, but practical examples are my best means of educating and bringing things to your attention. The city of Atlanta, for instance, recently was held ransomware. My home is in Du Bois, Pennsylvania. The city of Du Bois earlier this spring was attacked by cyber criminals, and they demanded 80 Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the currency of ransomware attackers because it is very, very, very difficult to trace. And 80 Bitcoin is the equivalent of about $100,000, which I thought was a very, very low price. And I was shocked that it was that low. You can imagine the Centers for Disease Control and the World Health Organization are a couple of organizations recently that have been attacked by cyber criminals. You can imagine the value and the information that those organizations, and it's really been brought to light by the pandemic, what they do. So the bottom line of cyber coverage is vigilance and education. You and your employees must remain vigilant, and you must educate your employees or yourselves in small business scenarios, whoever has access to both the internet, email, whatever, computer functions, banking functions, as Faith build upon. Those are the things that cyber criminals will get you. Okay, you have to look closely at email addresses and domains on emails, attachments. If an attachment comes in from someone, even a coworker, when you open those, that is where the virus or the worm or the cyber activity is going to infiltrate your computer system. A lot of insurance programs right now have cyber coverage. I understand that. But the limits of cyber coverage given as endorsements to your current policies are not nearly enough for you in the event that you have a cyber attack. Mike, next slide, please. Again, education of employees is the best way to protect yourself and your business against cybersecurity scams. You won't hear much about this, and I do a lot of reading on technical, that's why you have insurance representatives. We read the technical information for you and pass it on. And I'm not sure it's been very widely publicized, but a full 10% of the stimulus funds that were sent out recently in the first stimulus bill that was passed, 10% of the stimulus funds, $1 trillion was the stimulus package, 10% of those funds were subject to cyber attack and were hacked or stolen by cyber criminals. Okay, malware and cyber is expected to increase, especially in this coronavirus-related email communications and correspondence between. More people are remote, more people are working from home. The specialized invoices that are being sent for services rendered during coronavirus all are subject for cyber attack. They are setting up fake companies to provide you services for cleanup and sanitation. They add an attachment of their services. You hit on that. It's not a sanitation company, ladies and gentlemen. It's cyber criminals that are luring you in. You open an attachment, and unfortunately, right there, you've been compromised. I've even heard, and it's somewhat amazing to me, cyber criminals will get into your system and sit there, and they'll watch activity on your accounts. They will find out when your insurance policies renew, and they'll have access to your insurance policies. They'll look at those insurance policies to see exactly what coverage you have, and then they'll wait. They'll wait until it's time for them to strike in an opportune time and compromise you greatly. And I'm going to touch on a little bit. It's later in your packet, but some of the things that are involved in cyber claims. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this slide is really a summary of what you can do. Again, it's all vigilance and training. If you look for unexpected formats of emails, people calling on the telephone, requesting information, we hear about that all the time, or just suspicious activity, people that you're not used to getting emails from, attachments, wrong email addresses, typos, those are all things that you need to look for. And yes, it's very easy to say that, But in the heat of the moment, when your employees or yourself are busy, we all know that we don't necessarily take the time to look very carefully at what is coming in. So there will be an opportunity for questions. I think I've hit on this, but I want to, there's a couple of slides later in the package that talks about cyber liability insurance programs. And I just want to touch on those real briefly because there are two parts of coverage. The first is called first-party coverage. That covers the cost to your business. Okay, I hope it's not a matter of if. They tell me now it's a matter of when you are impacted, either directly or indirectly, by a cyber attack, and I'm sure many of you have been already. First-party coverage covers you. It covers your business, the cost to respond to the breach. Many people don't realize if you have a cyber attack, you get a phone call from the FBI or the federal government that tells you you have been compromised and that you must cease and desist your business activities. Right there. Until you have responded to the breach, you cannot operate. So you're shut down. And depending on the amount of time that you have or the time that it takes with your cyber insurance carrier, you will be out of commission until that time. So breach response is covered. Business interruption, the time that you're down, and the extra expense if you have to call in computer consultants, etc. Those types of risks are covered by first-party coverage. Network extortion, it responds to threats from outsiders attempting to get money, ransomware, and it also protects your digital assets, restoring your databases, fixing or repairing damaged or destroyed software and hardware. A lot of ransom attacks will render your entire hardware and software inventory of your computers completely useless. Even in cases of ransomware, I have read when you have a ransom that you agree to pay, whatever it be, $10,000, $50,000, $100,000, $1 million. You pay the ransom expecting, okay, this is behind me, only to find out your hardware, all of your computers and all of your software and all of your records are unable to be recovered. Those are some. You also have liability to other people that you might infect. That is called third-party coverage. Privacy liability. You are going to get sued. You are going to get named in lawsuits because you compromised other people's data. Network security. You're going to have to help the other guy maintain and re-establish their network that was damaged as a result of the attack. Internet media liability, infringement of copyrights. Everything is at play here, folks. You don't understand everything. Copyrights, information, whatever it may be. And it also covers, and another thing about cyber loss, they don't realize that you will be fined. There are regulatory actions and proceedings, and you are subject to fines for having a cyber attack, and you can buy third-party cyber coverage for that. So I hate to sound like that, but it is very, very prevalent and a very, very real concern.
Andy, so, can you answer a question that was posed in the chat? We had a client who asked, they want to know, is the data breach covered as well when you were mentioning data breaches?
Yes, data breach is absolutely covered. That is usually in the first party coverage. Your data breach and all the resulting damage, information to restore your systems. Ransomware, what they do is they take hold of all of your database and all of your financial information, your client lists, your marketing, your sales, everything. They really shut down your system and you are unable to operate. And that also, and I talked about the best examples in insurance are real life examples. And I think everyone here is probably old enough or can remember in some part the Target breach that happened around the holidays probably 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. That data breach originated in Pittsburgh in a small plumbing and heating, family-owned plumbing and heating shop in Millvale. They sent a point-of-sale invoice into Target's system for work they had done on the refrigeration and freezing units at a local Target store. The employee at Target opened the invoice, which had been infected as a result of actions at the plumbing and heating shop. That went through Target's system. Okay, that compromised Target to the point that I had a meeting with a national carrier 6 months after that. It was the next summer. That national carrier had the umbrella limit for Target from $80 to $100 million, and it was already spent. They had blown through $20 million from 80 to 100 million already, and they were just preparing they of course had layers of coverage above that. They were preparing and in discussions with the carrier that had the higher limits above them to prepare. So you can see how this can be affected. Obviously, the plumbing and heating shop never opened. This happened on a Saturday. The plumbing and heating shop never opened Monday morning. They were bankrupt. Absolutely that quickly. They were out of business. There was nothing they could do. They didn't have the correct kind of coverage to respond to this. So, that's really a sobering but true example of the implications of this. I just want to wrap up and tell you, and thank you very much for, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. But Huntington Insurance does set itself apart. We partner very well. I partner, and Chris talked about the need for emergency action planning, disaster planning, and contingency planning. Things that you need to be talking about as you're in your insurance program is business income coverage, management liability, the liability that you have as business owners. If you have a cyber attack, you're not only going to have cyber problems, your company is going to be sued, or you could be sued individually depending on the makeup and your entity type. And employee practices coverage is becoming very common. Employee practices coverage is age discrimination, sexual harassment. You suddenly had remote employees. You realize it doesn't cost as much to have employees in your office, so you let some of your staff go, or you let some of your staff go as a means of economic necessity to stay in business. The employees that you let go were released due to the pandemic. They have a potential claim situation. You're going to see an awful lot of these. Huntington has dedicated claims and loss control services. Sets us apart and makes us unique in the industry. We are the size and a bank-owned agency that has those capabilities. I like to partner with the people that I'm working with, and most companies, and of companies of the size that we're talking about today, don't have an on-site risk manager. I often say, I become your on-site risk manager. Let's do disaster recovery. Let's talk about contingency planning. And that's where I bring in my partners within Huntington Insurance, our life insurance team that can help you set up succession planning, contingency planning, key man coverage, set up life insurance as a trust for contingency planning, buy and sell agreements, really very unique solutions for you. And also I will mention my partners in employee benefits, because if you have not reviewed your employee benefits plan recently, my recommendation, not you must, my recommendation is that you seriously consider looking at both your insurance programs and your employee benefits programs coming out of the pandemic, simply to make sure that you are covered adequately. Of course, cyber liability is an entity all of itself. You need to make sure you're covered in that regard. But also, contingency planning is going to be very, very important. And also, let's face it, in the economy that we're in, financially, and what makes sense? What makes sense? Is there something out there that you can do more efficiently with less cost? Or are there more services that are available, such as loss control? that can come in and really give you a good evaluation of the controls and everything that you have in place. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and certainly you can reach out to any of us at Huntington if you have any questions, and we would certainly be happy to help you and partner with you. Mike, I think at this point, or Chris, I'm going to go back to you.
Yep, no problem. Thank you very much, Andy. Thank you very much, Faith, for your presentations on this. Now's probably a good spot to stop and see if there's any